welcome. We are conferencing on Senate Bill 421 and Senate Bill 523 and House Bill. Did you do a substitute on this, or is you just the Senate bills?
Just the Senate bill, and the one that we had passed is 421. So that would be the one that we can work on. We did have a hearing on 523, so we were aware of what was in that as well. But 521 is the content that we would have. 421, thanks.
I guess at this point in time, we would like to make an offer that we would insert the contents of Senate Bill 523 into Senate Bill 421, which just changes everything to where we would be doing $1 billion plus the layering of 253,866,022, and that's what we'd offer to start the discussion.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does 523 include the 253 in addition explicitly, or is that in a separate bill?
Right. So 421 had the 253, and then Senate Bill 523 had the billion additional. So it would be $1,253,866,022 total. And the payment schedule that we had was different than yours. We were paying $600 in the current fiscal year of 22. We have a payment upon publication or register, and then another additional $300 million in June, and then have the revenue looked at in October, and if the revenues were sufficient, we would suggest another $200 million. With the way we have it now is with State Finance Council approval, and then in January would be the final $200 million payment. We feel like spreading these over a longer term gets us better options in the market, and that's why we did stretch it out.
So thank you. Thanks for your work. And we're in agreement on most of this stuff in terms of looking at getting additional monies to CAPERS. And so exactly how much and when are some details that we can work on. On the later payments, we have some interest in getting the option to CAPERS sooner to be able to invest it. Was there any particular items on the date, such as a particular finance committee meeting or other things that drove the October 1 and January 1 dates in particular?
No, just spreaded them basically somewhere within the quarters.
So
would be open on those two payments as far as different dates.
Okay, thank you. Might be interested if there were some dates that we'd look at to do it just a little earlier than that if we worked to stretch the payments and maybe look at getting it in at least during the calendar year of 22. And let me take just a moment to talk with my team on that, and we'll just do it right here and continue to work with you if we may.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senators. We have an idea for you.
Okay.
We'll see how you like some of the thinking. So we appreciate spreading out the risk, and then the total amount is one question. Looking historically, sometimes a good time to be invested is by around the 1st of August for some of the numbers that tend to come up in returns in the fall of the year. Not hard and fast, who knows, but looking at the average time. So we wondered if we might look at even 3 payments, not hard and fast, just something for you to chew on, where we do now June 1st and at some point in August, perhaps August 1st, to put those in, with that 3rd payment as you have it on the last 2 payments being subject to action by the State Finance Council. But we might ask that we flip that just a little bit to say that that last payment would be made unless State Finance Council would act to not make it, so that State Finance Council still has their hand on that lever, but the default is that it would happen. So we are fast on our billion number, and we would look at that first 253 coming out of that first payment to take care of the layering. But in that case, just an idea for saying if we did 3 payments, dividing the billion over that time frame, if that would be a good way to spread the risk and get the dollars to work in capers, as an idea for you to consider. And not super hard and fast on those dates and times, just looking at some of the, if you want 4 payments, glad to still consider that, but throw that idea out there for your consideration.
June 1st, August 1st, and when was the 3rd one?
Well, the first one would be now.
Okay, just current payment.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're wanting to stick with the total 1 billion? Let me visit with my committee here.
Thank you.
We discussed it, and I think our committee would like to really ask you to consider the total amount, the $1,253,000,000. And I think we'd be okay with adjusting the payments for you, but we'd really like to keep that amount. And you know, to have the State Finance Council, you know, either take an action or it happens, I think we're okay with that. I guess we would just like to say that, you know, if we get to October and the stock market doesn't look good or our revenues don't look good, I think action of the State Finance Council would reduce our number probably to your number or maybe even a little less. So, I mean, I think we have a guardrail in place there that, you know, if for some reason either the markets or the revenues, either side of that, and it looks like, you know, it passed pretty well in your chamber and it passed pretty well in our chamber. And our committee, our subcommittee here feels like that more is better. And so we would ask you to consider the full amount of $1,253,000,000.
Thank you. So I'll take just a moment to clarify on that. And by asking for a larger position than we have, you should at least get a huge bowl of the Director of Capers chili delivered to you whenever that's done. But if we're talking through, so the piece of subject to approval by State Finance Council would just be the Finance Council would have the authority to stop it on the payments after June 1. And then, as you'd mentioned it, and I'm not trying to make any assumptions, but perhaps the payment schedule for the first billion would be what we had proposed, and maybe the fourth payment would happen to be equal to the 253, or would you just make them equal payments? Or,
you know, I think we all agree that the 253 should be done immediately. Okay. So we take that off and start saving those dollars, and then the first 300 million immediately. So, you know, both them in April. And then we would do your June 1 and your August 1. And we would like 4, but we could work with 3 and make equal numbers. I mean, do you have a good reason why we want to just do it in August and not have the fourth payment? I mean, is there, I know you said August 1 is a good date generally. Is it not as advantageous in December if
So it depends on, sorry to cut you off if I.
No,
that totally depends on the year. But if you just look at the average year and monthly returns, typically the fall has a better return in the market and the summer's a little slow. Doesn't mean that that's the case. We've also seen Octobers where it is the worst month of the year, and it'd be great to put it in on November 1. Typically there's a bit of a rally through the end of the year, but that's not important enough to super drive it. I just didn't know if there were some other reasons that were there on both. But in general, the idea of getting more of the money to work somewhat sooner is all that was behind that. So there wouldn't be any magic to it has to be in by August 1. And if there is a desire for a fourth payment, I think that can be worked with. So flexible on that. We're not very flexible on our billion number at the moment, but glad to continue to take that away and chew on it. But a billion's where we'd be, and glad to work out a payment schedule that we can both figure out that looks good. I do like getting more of a front-weighted payment, whereas yours would have it as proposed. It'd actually be $553 million up front to take care of the 253 in the first payment. So I do like the idea of a larger initial payment and then smaller payments that we stretch out over some schedule. So happy to continue to look at that also.
Yes, it just seems like, you know, we've had a little lull here in the market, so it might be a good time for the larger payment.
Yes, so it would be very open to putting 500 million or more in as we had the full billion. So very flexible on that and just working to accommodate the Senate position on stretching it out and figuring out, what helps us in managing that risk and where might we just be letting the market continue to move away from us.
I might mention too, one of the important factors in the Senate was that, going forward by getting this money in there, that it reduces our payments, and that was very important. So Senator Clays has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'd mentioned that you're relatively stuck on the 1 billion number. Is there a reason that the number can't be higher than 750 on the payment of the unfunded liability?
So that is a great question, and one where you may exceed my pay grade in that what I have is the blinders on this particular piece, and as you work on the overall budget, that my understanding is the constraint of the priorities that we have all together in our House position. This is the position that I would hold today.
All right. Thank you, big spenders.
Well, I think we know where we're both at, so maybe you can chew on it, we'll chew on it. And I don't know if we probably wouldn't have time to come back today. We're trying to finish our budget, so.
As you have time, we will make ourselves available and certainly continue to take that. I really appreciate the larger spirit of we've got a big number that we're in agreement on, and having the chance to get that to work, I think will do very well for the state. Look forward to getting rid of those layering payments and a sizable chunk on the CAPERS liability.
And we feel the same. It's very important, and that's why we've try to stick with our higher amount, because this is one-time money, and we're trying to take the biggest advantage of that as we can. So,
thank you for your time, and we'll look forward to getting us tied up.
Okay, thank you a lot. Appreciate it. We're adjourned.